What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS 3 Raw TV. So, let's do our Olympia wrap-up video. So, I'm actually in the parking lot at the mall. I just got out of the mall doing some Christmas shopping, which is actually I'm kind of happy about because it's actually kind of a lot of people out right now. It's nice to see people out, like doing things and trying to be normal. And there's like a little kid. She was this cute little girl. She must have been like 2 or something. She could barely walk. She was so excited about the escalator, and she was riding the escalator up and down the other one with her dad. And when I walked up, she was sitting there. She was like, she wasn't really talking. She had a mask on, which is sad to see these kids with these masks on. The father was like, okay, one more time. So like they stepped on behind me and we rode it up. She was all excited, and it was like, it's nice to see people just with a little bit of positivity and that Christmas spirit, like the Christmas cheer, So before we get into this breakdown of the 2020 Olympia Open Division, tis the season, guys. Try to be positive, try to stay upbeat, and try to have that Christmas spirit, because all year long we've been pushed down, and now's not the time to continue to be pushed down. So stay positive, be out there, and try to help one another, and do the best we can to try to have a good Christmas. Now, that being said, the 2020 Olympia. Now, I want to, first of all, congratulate Big Ramy, hands down. I've met Ramy several times. I've talked to him. I've hung out with him. Super nice guy. Love the guy. So happy. He just loves being a bodybuilder. Like, his whole life, like, if you're like, hey, Ramy, what's up? He's like, I'm a bodybuilder. Like, he loves it. Like, before he could really speak English that well, it was like the first time I met him, and he was just like, I am bodybuilder. Like, he's like, I love bodybuilding. Like, he was very short with his words, but you could tell he always had like a smile on his face. He was always pumped up, like happy to be a bodybuilder. And that's like that enthusiasm. It's not about business. It's not about ego. He's just happy to be lifting weights and being able to do what he does. He just loves it. And for him to be the best in the world at doing what he does, it's a pretty awesome thing to see that come to fruition. So congratulations to Ramy. I'm very happy for him. I think that he'll do well for the sport. I think he'll be a good ambassador. He's got a lot of fans. He won the Fans' Choice Award, the most popular award, which usually the person that wins the show doesn't really get that usually, but he did it. So I think that's actually a big thing, saying a big thing for him too. Now, let's get into the breakdown. So when I left you guys last, I had said the judges have seen things in person that the people online haven't seen. I said, from what I see here, the way they're moving people around, they move Phil around the least amount of everybody else. He moved everybody else around. Now, normally that would mean that they're comparing everybody to Phil. Now, here's where things kind of go south a little bit. Phil is usually known for going into his Saturday night better, and he did come in better. Like, he was definitely tighter when he came out, and he was controlling his midsection. We were like, oh shit, now, man, like when he came out Saturday night and he started hitting his poses during his routine, we were like, oh shit, I think he just made up ground. Like, I think he just made up ground. I do think that they were comparing Phil, the judges were comparing Phil because they were really giving him a chance. Like, they were telling him, like, look, here's your shot. We're giving you all kinds of looks against these guys. If you want that title back, go get it. And I think they gave him chance after chance. And again, he came in bigger and fuller, which is going to make his stomach distend with the amount of food he has to eat, but whatever. I just don't think that the surgery is that he had 2 surgeries on that stomach that for the average person would probably be okay. The person probably wouldn't have any complications, but I noticed as the Olympia was going longer, especially Saturday night, he was not just having a hard time keeping the his stomach, in, right? But it looked like, the muscles wouldn't even contract anymore at the end. Like, he'd go to do an ab thigh shot and they wouldn't even contract. And I was like, well, that's fucked up, because they were contracting earlier. So when they first came out Saturday, they were contracting. It actually looked better than it did on Friday. By the end of that, it was like he couldn't hold the poses, and then the fucking stomach, he just couldn't contract his abdominals anymore. So I don't know whether they were fatigued. I don't know whether they tore again. Like, that ran through my mind too, was like, what if he tore something again? Because it looked literally like he came out strong Saturday night, and then it went completely south, and he couldn't hold the poses. And I was like, I don't, any other explanation would be, he didn't do his homework in posing, but I know that's not true because they pose a lot. So I gotta, put it out there that I was rooting for Phil. I was. I always root for Phil. And why? Because he's a friend of mine. Some people don't like Phil. They dog him. He's been very nice to me throughout the years. His wife, Shri, has been really awesome to me too. We're close friends, and, I want my friends to do well. It's not that, I want them to win at all costs. And if they don't deserve it, then they shouldn't win. That's how I feel. And I do think that When Phil came out, they were trying to give it to him, but it just didn't go that way throughout the posing, and they decided to go with Ramy. Now, I don't feel Brandon should have beat Ramy. I don't think Brandon thinks he should have beat Ramy. I think that Ramy, he was just too big, too conditioned. I mean, he had all the tools that we've been wanting to see from Ramy. Now, my question is this. In a Bonac, I love Bonac's physique too. And Hadi, I always call him Hadi as well. But they weren't where Ramy, well, I'll be honest with you, I feel like Bonac could have jumped in there. I mean, it was a toss-up. It was whoever could hit those shots and had like one little type thing that was different than the other ones that the judges liked, it was going to go that way. It wasn't like glaringly obvious. I think it was kind of tough for the judges to push them back and forth. And, I think all of them could have placed, second or third, to be honest with you. I think that Hadi could have. I think that Bonac could have. That's just the way that it went. And I do think that Brandon will be back. I don't think he's done. I think that Brandon tries to come in too big. I think he tried to come in too big this time. Whatever he did to look like he did in that hotel room and the pictures he put up on Instagram, I think he should have stayed right there. I don't think he should have carved up. He was on a podcast talking about how he eats 1,000 grams of carbs plus cheeseburgers and shit. And I'm like, dude, you just don't need that. Like, with your genetics, you don't need that. Like, if you looked like that in the picture in a hotel room like a week out or 3 days out or whatever, there should be nothing you're doing except exactly the same thing. Now, I'm an armchair quarterback, right? I'm on the sidelines, but I'm just saying, knowing that I've been through competitions, I've coached people, I've trained people, I am a judge, I'm looking at it going, that was a really good combination for him. And they tried to get him fuller and bigger. I think maybe just to try to compete with, Phil was coming back and Ramy was, getting the invite. I think they wanted to be really dominant size-wise, which Brandon, when he's full, he looks phenomenal. But if you get too full, he starts to lose those lines that he has when he's a little bit tighter, a little bit smaller. So for him, there's like a balance. You can't just get as big as possible. Just like Ramy, there's a balance. He had to come down. And what's awesome about Ramy was he said, basically he asks the judges every year for feedback, and then he never does it. He said, this is the first year that I've done it, which was awesome because they keep telling him, come down, come down. I think it was 290 when he weighed in his sweats on Thursday. By the time Friday came and he pulled water, I bet you he was probably sitting about 280, even lighter, maybe like 275, 280, somewhere around there. By the time the show came and he was stripped down. So I think that he did come in a lot later than he's come in a long time, and it showed. Now, the one thing that I question is the judges have made it very clear the last, I don't know how many years, that, Phil, Sean, Dexter, they want a smaller, more shapely Mr. Olympia. They want people to chase that look. Now it's gone back to mass monsters. And they did it in, 2 different divisions. They, they went from, in physique, they gave it back to Brandon Hendrickson, who was a lot thicker and more muscular than, I cannot remember the guy's name who won it last year, the taller guy who has a much more streamlined physique. And of course they went with Sean Clarita instead of Kamal, and Sean was just packed full of muscles. That's technically three of the divisions that they really went with like a ton of muscle like that. And I'm like, well, more muscle than before, right? So now they're giving the message that, size matters again, size. So now, 2021, I think that what's going to happen is for the bodybuilders to try to be competitive, they're going to follow that message from the judges and say, well, I got to get bigger. So I think we are maybe coming into another era of bodybuilding again. Things are starting to change again. And, pretty much all except for Bumstead, and he was bigger than, Breon and Terrence both. So, size is king again. So we're kind of moving in that phase again. Now, what that means as far as next year, we'll see. But if you're chasing the look, that's the ultimate look, which is the Olympia. Usually it trickles down into the, the other, tier shows like the Arnold and the lower tier shows. They call them lower tier shows, but like the shows that are usually not as heavily packed full of competitors as the other IFBB shows. And then down to the nationals and straight through the amateurs. So it kind of starts at the Olympia and then kind of trickles down. Now, will we see that all next year? I don't know. It might take a few years. Whenever a division changes like that, it takes a couple of years for it to pick up, because you're not all of a sudden just going to throw on 40 pounds of mass on your frame on stage just because Ramy won. It's going to take time for people to build that up. So for now, the message is, hey, size is back. We're going in a new direction. So, let's see where it goes now. They brought female bodybuilding back. I thought the girls looked great. They didn't look too over the edge. I thought some of the physique girls actually looked gone a little further than the bodybuilders did right now as far as conditioning and stuff. So that was kind of interesting. It was more, the bodybuilders were big and thick and they were lean. but not conditioned like the women's physique. And of course, the bikini, it was changing of the garden bikini. It was an awesome Olympia. I'll be honest with you. I think that, for 2020 and going through what we all went through, I think that, man, this was awesome. It really was. And I just want to say, I want to shout out to all the Olympia champions. Congratulations, guys. You guys deserved it. You earned it. You went out there and did what you had to do in the middle of a pandemic. And then after, and all the stress of moving the Olympia isn't going to happen. Like, qualifying for the Olympia with other shows throughout the year. You guys had your work cut out for you. And it's impressive to see that you guys not only persevered, but you got all the way to the end and got to your goals. Whether it was just to compete at the Olympia or whether you won, you guys did it. That's inspiring. That's motivating. And whether you know it or not, there are people around the world watching right now, which you probably know because you're the Olympia champions. But people right now are motivated and inspired, and they can't wait to get back to the gym. Like tomorrow's Monday. Today's Sunday, and people probably went back today. But tomorrow, I bet you the gym's going to be loaded. People are going to start on their new plans. Now I know what to look for. Now I know what direction to go into. And, I want to close this out with is a lot of people dogging Phil. A lot of people don't like Phil. Like I said, Phil's a close friend of mine. I had seen pictures of him, a week out, 2 weeks out, whatever it was, and of course kept them myself, didn't say anything to anybody, didn't show them to anybody. And I just want to say Phil is one of the legends in our sport. You may not like his personality, and I get that because not everybody's personality. Some people don't like Jay. Like he's too quiet. He's not flamboyant enough. He's not flashy enough. Some people, didn't like Nasser, which was really interesting because he was a nice guy. They said he sounded stupid. That some people didn't like Ronnie because, he had a great physique, but he talked like an idiot. He sounded like an idiot, So like there's always going to be people that don't like you for your personality or whatever the case may be. But, it's not fair to have these people saying he sucks, he's this, he's that. He's a 7-time Mr. Olympia. He won 7 times straight. He was undefeated at the Mr. Olympia 7 times, which has only been done by him, Haney, and Ronnie. So 3 people in history have gone 7 times undefeated like that. Dorian didn't do it. Jay didn't do it. Only 3 people. And he was arguably one of the most genetically gifted people that have ever walked the planet for this sport. Had it all, or has it all, rather. So to dig on him like that, it's cool if you guys are like, I don't like his personality. Fine, not everybody's personality is for everybody, but let's not take anything away from him. He's the greatest, one of the greatest of all times. He was the greatest of, since Ronnie. He was the greatest of that generation after Ronnie, and he showed it. He won, 7 straight Olympias, like, and against like Kai, he banged heads with Kai a lot, so, it just frustrates me when people say stuff like, and you're going to have people that dog Ramy. They're going to have people that dog, Brandon, they're saying shit about him. Like he was a one and done. Like he just happened to get an off year. He didn't deserve it. Like I'm hearing all you guys like say shit about these guys. And I'm like, look, here's the deal. Your ass is not on stage. And if it is, you're not making it past the local level. And if you do, you're not making it past the national level. And if you do, you're not making it to the pros. And if you do, you're not making it to the Olympia. And if you do, you ain't beating Phil. And if you do, you ain't beating Brandon. And if you do, you ain't beating Ramy. So you can talk all the shit you want, but the guys that you're talking shit about are so far ahead of you, they're on fucking another planet compared to you, which it's okay to be jealous. It's okay to have, envy for these guys. But I think a little bit of respect for what they've accomplished and what they did. Without Phil Heath, we wouldn't have seen the Kai Green that we saw. Period. Without Brandon and Phil coming back, we wouldn't have seen the Ramy we saw. It takes these guys to make these other guys their best. And they know that. They bring out the best in each other. They're fierce competitors, and a lot of them are friends outside of the sport. You'll see them, like hanging out, eating and stuff like outside of the sport. It happens all the time. But when they're on stage, they hate each other. Well, I say hate each other, but they look like they hate each other. So, in closing, I just think that we should give credit where credit's due. We should give people shit when we should give them shit for things that we should give them shit for. But I don't think we should just be shitting on people for the fuck of it just because we can. And we're envious or we're jealous, or our person won and someone else's person lost, all right? This is not like the NFL where fucking my team won, your team lost. Like, we got one show a year to go at it. There's no, well, next week we'll get them, all right? So if your guy lost this year, support your guy. If another guy won, it's not just the guys on stage that should show good sportsmanship. Part of this sport is showing good sportsmanship, and even when your team loses, your guy loses, congratulations to the other team. If those guys can stand on stage and shake each other's hands and hug and say congratulations and really mean it to each other, then so can we. They're showing us the example. They're leading by example, and we should follow their example. And that's what great champions do. So, great 2020 Olympia. Had a great time watching. I was pumped. I'm looking forward to 2021 now because I know there are a couple of surprises. And I heard, guys, I was told yesterday there might be a big surprise coming to the Olympia next year. To bodybuilding next year in general. That sounds pretty good. But for now, Big Ramy, you're the fucking man. Enjoy it, brother. I'm Bias3 and I approve this message. Let's go home. And we're out.